Welcome to the Pirate Broadcast, where we interview interesting people doing interesting things, where you can expand your connections, your community. Kindness is cool and smiles are free. And let's get this party started. And guess what we have? We have a pirate in the house back for another round, and we were having someone that had to cancel it. And so, Darren, thank you so much for being willing to jump on, and have a great conversation again. So,
oh, truly my pleasure. Thank you for letting me come on in.
It's oftentimes, and there are a lot of pirates out there that are always excited to jump on and willing to participate. However, we were talking yesterday with Brian and having a good conversation, and you jumped on and I introduced you guys, and so hopefully you'll be able to connect. And one of the conversations we were having with Brian, and if you haven't watched the episode or you didn't catch it live, it was yesterday. Go check it out at russjohns.com/pirate broadcast. And it's with Brian's experience. He had a traumatic, life-threatening experience where a nurse jumped in, ran over, helped him, saved his arm, and great story, and I can totally relate to it. And it was nice that you jumped in and said, hey, have you ever considered finding that individual that made an impact on your life? And before we were talking on the going live, we were talking about how impactful different people in our lives have been, and how important for us to recognize who they are, and just take a moment and pause and think, man, what an impact they made in my life. So I hope you guys can actually tackle that adventure and maybe do some good work for that. So
yeah, what a great guest, and what a great story. Inspiring, truly inspiring. This random stranger, a Walmart stranger, no less, saves his life. And when he was telling the story, I couldn't help but wonder, because I didn't have that physical life saving, but I had a teacher that was retired, a first grade teacher, literally remapped my brain so I could speak when I was young. I had a horrific speech impediment, and I would not have learned. It was probably fourth grade before anyone could even understand me. It was just an auditory processing disorder. But I have no idea what her name is. So when your guest, which has a life-saving scenario, truly life-saving, I couldn't help but wonder if he stayed in touch. And I had kind of thought, I wonder, probably not, because many times these lifesavers, these people that are so important in so many lives, it's just another day at the office, in a sense, for these nurses, these first responders. And I could see that person just kind of leaving before any kind of accolades are showered upon them. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Well, it's interesting too, because I was at one point in my life, I was a volunteer firefighter and an EMT. And there have been many cases where I wondered how they ended up. From the other opposite side, it's like, I hope they're well, I hope they're recovered and, survived this trauma that they went through, whether it be a car accident or a fall or, an injury of some kind. And the reality is we're all going through this world, and we're doing things, and things happen to us. And what we were talking about before the show was how this trauma, this tragic circumstance, allows us to become stronger, more resilient. It's like the crucible of, processing steel and making it stronger through fire and heat, and, dousing it in water and doing it over and over again. And it's just a process that we have to go through in life. And the more resilient we are, the stronger we become, and the more impact we can make in a lot of ways. And at least that's been my experience. Hopefully I'm making an impact to some people every day. I can inspire or motivate somebody to think a little differently, through these stories that we have on the pirate broadcast. And I know that your life and your experience in the police force and being a detective has to have some of that same experience along your journey.
Oh, absolutely. And to your first point in regards to it's an old cliche, but so true. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I found that to be true, that, all these different, difficulties we go through, these challenges, and we meet them and we overcome them, it makes us stronger. It really does. But yeah, as far as being it's funny because I didn't grow up as that kid who always wanted to play cops and robbers, always wanted to be the good guy, and just was destined to be a cop. That's my daughter was destined to be a teacher. She always played school. She, in back playhouse, it was a schoolroom, so she was destined to be this teacher. Me, not so much. I think I was more destined to be a used car salesman. I just, I didn't have that, but I always had this overwhelming sense of community. And when you're young, you don't know what that means, but right. I always liked helping the neighbors, whether it's shagging golf balls from somebody hitting it into the park or what have you. I always loved helping. And so I did go through a horrific event when I was in my 17, saw a fatal one-car accident. They had been drinking, and we ran over to save them. And it's in my first book. In fact, it starts off the chapter. And sadly, we weren't able, and I say we, there's 4 of us, but I was the smallest of the group. In high school, I wrestled at 98 pounds. So it gives you an idea how small I was.
Wow.
And so I'm squeezing in through this burning car, trying to get the last person out. And I got a hold of her, but could not pull her out. The seatbelt, it was an old 60s car, and the seatbelt had jammed, and I couldn't release her, and I got burnt, and sadly she burned to death. And that stayed with me horrifically, to the point where I was obsessed with saving lives. So when I became a police officer, I could not go on enough radio calls. I was that guy who just loved shagging the radio calls because it was someone asking for help, opposed to looking for cars that look suspicious, and that's great police work. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I had this need to help. And to your question about, police work, it was so rewarding going from call to call, helping people. And when I got promoted, I went back out on the street after having been in detectives for about 10 years. I was in patrol 10 years and detective 10 years, and then as a sergeant for 10 years, basically. And when I went back on the street, it was funny. I'd be dealing with my troops, and somebody would come up and say, "Oh my God, you helped me with that rape case, some rape victim." And yeah, it's very rewarding, and you don't realize how much of an impact you make. Like this nurse with your guest yesterday, Brian.
Yeah.
This nurse made this huge impact. This first grade retired teacher made a huge impact in my life, and they go without a name. And maybe that's appropriate to some degree. It's almost like the unknown soldier. They represent something bigger than themselves, which is always a great way to look into life. Trying to help people and do something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. I just want to recognize the fact that there are so many people, there's so many helpers out there, that if you have an opportunity, take time. A soldier, a police officer, a nurse, EMT, firefighters, all of these individuals are out there doing great work. And the intent is typically to help others. And, I don't think they get enough recognition in a lot of ways. And so if there's an opportunity that anyone has a moment to reach out and thank somebody for that, and, offer some at least appreciation, do something about it.
I could not agree more. And so many times the heroes aren't the ones wearing capes. Again, I love police. I joked about firefighters, because it's
the police and
we have.
Firefighters always have that little routine.
That's right. But with this COVID and the pandemic, it really showed us a whole another facet of that. When you talk about the stores, the grocery stores, and these people stocking the stores, the truck drivers, getting the stuff. We can't afford for them to stay home. Like my beautiful wife works for the city. She gets to stay home. COVID-19 pandemic sadly for me, it was kind of a blessing. I got to have her 24/7. But these folks that you don't think of as our heroes really are. You know, we always hopefully knew nurses and doctors, you know, were amazing. But you know, these checkout people at the grocery stores,
Yeah.
and you know, these yeah, it's funny what sometimes it's like you know, I always try to look on the bright side. It's just who we are. I think is in our DNA. We go through a lot of tragedy, as you and I have both encountered. And you know, we always kind of look at that silver lining and just keep going forward. But with this pandemic, we got a sense of, yeah, how important each other we are, and these people that you don't think of as heroes really are, and to give thanks to them.
Yeah. Appreciate the unappreciated, the invisible, the ones that are out there doing it every day. And you mentioned, you know, the people in the stores, you know, making sure that the supply lines are continuing to be filled and our carts are available, and, you know, we're still getting fed, and all the things that go along with that.
Yeah,
exactly. I want to shift gears, and I want to just give a shout out to some of the individuals. Angie Schumann, always so awesome to be able to see you in the world.
She's awesome.
Good morning, Pirates. Russ Hedge in from Oregon, absolutely a positive person that makes an impact every single day. Love you, Russ. Tracy Strunzi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She's my producer. I should be thrashed about the Head and Shoulders. And but thank you, Tracy, for being here. I know I swapped out the guest today to accommodate Darren. I was just going to come on and do a solo show. You know, this month is kind of a interesting month for me in a lot of respects, and we talked about that. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand that we all go through things that challenge us, and we all have to understand that what we do with that challenge is what makes it important in our lives. So thank you, Tracy, for being you. And Darlene, I still have not figured out how to create a moderator on my YouTube channel. She's offered to assist, and there's a lot of people out there that are helping the Pirates. Russ Hedge, life's challenges definitely make us stronger. Absolutely.
Yep.
My daughter is a death investigator. I'm glad she didn't do it too much to give me an indication that her career path as a child. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I did for quite a few years.
Did you?
Yeah, night detective and a homicide, going from one death scene after another. And like that proud mom said, you know, it's not something you think about as your child. I've never imagined in a million years I'd be doing that when I, hit my 40s or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many. This is what I love about the Pirate broadcast, is there's so many different positions and jobs and experiences that we get to share during these conversations. Darren, it's really important for us to understand that there's a lot of people doing different things in the world, and you have all kinds of opportunities if you just look beyond what you can see and kind of look at the peripheral and gauge life in a different way. It's really important for us to understand that there's a lot of different people out there doing different things, and have a little empathy for what's going on around you. Michael Baker says, good morning. Howard Kaufman, true heroes. Howard, thank you so much. I think of you all the time. Jenny Gold's going to be on the show. She's going to be helping. We're going to be talking about your product and everything that's going on in your world. And so thank you for being here. Darren, I want to talk about your book. You got something coming up. Last time we spoke in 1st of January, New Year's, we were talking about, writing and authors and some of the adventures you got going on. Give us an update on what's going on in that world.
Yeah, it's the end cap of my career, to real succinctly put it in context. My last 5 years.
Next adventure.
Yeah, it really was. I reinvented myself as when I retired from the police department after like about 30 years. I was the silent witness sergeant here locally. Across the globe, it's known as Crime Stoppers. So I connected with media, and I had a morning show with KDKB, rock and roll morning show. They wanted me to do the stupid suspect stories or dumb criminal stories, and I didn't
Darwin
trust the internet.
Awards.
Yeah, and I didn't trust the internet, so I kind of told my own, dumb Darren stories, really, but also stupid suspects, and it became popular. And someone asked me to write a book, and I did. When I retired, hoping to give, in fact, I did. I gave about almost $10,000 to that nonprofit Crime Stoppers from the book, but it became really successful. And like you, I shared the death of my son, and in the final chapter, a lot of people, the one thing they didn't like about it is like, what happened? They wanted more information on that. So I decided to write a second one. And it became again popular, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And we have a local celebrity here in the Valley of the Sun called Dave Pratt, the mayor, and he read it, liked it, endorsed it, gave me a review on it, and then about a year later reached out and said, I'd love to have you on our radio show doing a podcast called Badge Boys, where he hooked me up with a guy by the name of Jason Schechterly, who is truly inspiring story of someone who was burnt, should not have survived. A miracle he survived, and very inspiring story. Talk about adversity, and he's literally like the phoenix, risen from this horrible ashes, and now he goes around the country and inspiring others. So I'm so lucky to be able to share a show with him and talk about stuff. And by just fate, the book was doing pretty good, and I got a call from some TV producer, a couple actually, and one of them wanted to put me on a new show with someone who's known as the Homicide Hunter. Lieutenant Joe Kenda has this Homicide Hunter show on ID channel. They created a new network called Discovery Plus, and the show is Joe Kenda's American Detective. And my story involving that one case, and every homicide detective, sex crime detective, burglary detective, I don't care what you're doing, you have that one case that either it hit you hard because it was so horrific, or because you never got to solve it, or whatever those factors are for that individual detective. Connected. So in my second book, it's called That One Case, and it is brutal. It's a horrible home invasion of an elderly couple. There was a rape component, murder. It was just horrible. And then, there was no evidence. There was no evidence. I had a great scene detective on it and got no evidence. So it was very daunting. It took several years to solve, but I was able to solve it, thank God, with the help of other detectives across the nation, because he was doing this all across the nation. It was truly a monster. So the last show on this series, the finale, if you will, is that one case. I'm not even sure what they're labeling it. I don't know if it's Gypsy Monster. He was part of a gypsy clan. I'm not sure what the name of it, but it's the final episode on February 24th. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I have, I was being recorded for like 2 hours. It's only an hour show, so they probably have like maybe 5 minutes of me talking probably, and then some good-looking guy being my character when I was young, and then of course Lieutenant Joe Kenda narrates it almost like Robert Stack in Unsolved Mysteries, or maybe appropriately more like Rod Serling with Night Gallery and so forth.
Yeah. Well, that's when does that come out?
February 24th, about 2 weeks, just a little over 2 weeks from now, on the Discovery Plus. And I foresee it going also to the ID channel in a couple of years, maybe even less than that. But it was their premiere show to kind of get people onto this new platform, the streaming platform, kind of like Netflix. They're all kind of going that way. It's on demand. You can see it when you want to see it and so forth. So I think that's going to be the next evolution from cable.
Yeah, I'm an early adopter.
yeah, right. You're a pirate. Absolutely. You get that.
I get that. I totally get that. Darlene says, fantastic conversation, Silver Fox DJ. And also, one of your fans, you guys rock on Badge Boys. So
she rocks. She really does. I love Angie.
She does. Angie's awesome. Yes. When does the episode air? Yep. Order Discovery
February 24th. We'll see it together because I haven't seen it either. So we'll see it together and we'll text each other.
All right. We should have a showing party.
There you go.
I really know that there's so many elements in this world that we just go undiscovered and unnoticed as we go through life. And just congratulations, Darren, on the episode and everything that goes along with that, and enjoying some of the fruits of your labor. I know writing a book can be a challenging experience in a lot of ways.
Especially changing the crayon into actual print form is very difficult.
Yeah. Sometimes it melts, you know.
Exactly. The pages stick. It's horrible. Yeah.
But you know, you survived it, you thrived through it, and now you're a stronger person because of it. So fantastic. I want to talk a little bit about what the next stage is, you know, because I believe that life is an evolution, you know. I've never really believed in this philosophy of retirement, because I think my dad worked just as hard after he quit working for a organization, a company. You know, you're no longer in the police force. You're doing badge boys. You're writing books. You're doing things. What are some other adventures you got on your horizon?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. When I retired from being a cop, and a lot of cops have a hard time because the job identifies them, or they identify through the job. You know, I have friends that still refer to themselves by their rank. You know, I never thought of myself, you know, yeah, I was a police officer, I was a detective, but it didn't define me. You know, you have a whole another life, facets, passions, and so forth. Yeah. So when retirement came around, I had been doing the radio, so I was kind of excited to do the book and write a book, and knew it would be daunting, especially for someone who can't, you know, read or write like myself. But you know, I was able to, you know, deal with the difficulties and challenge. Yeah. And it's funny because now that I wrote the second one, I went ahead and wrote a screenplay for an outline, and now I'm working with a television producer and possibly putting that into fruition. But the most fun I have is that as a grandfather. My daughter had a beautiful boy about 2.5 years ago, and now she's pregnant with twins. The idea that they were just over last night, and I got to play with them nonstop, and that is so much fun. It's so beautiful. Talk about, you know, doing something significant out there. If you make every day a little bit better, you know, with just like you talk about, a smile, if you smile, but to make a difference in this young man's life is the most rewarding. So I'm dedicating myself as a grandfather. That's the greatest job there is to become a grandfather and help not just your grandchild, but your child, your daughter, your son. Yeah. So that's, I think, my next chapter in my life is just dedicating myself to them, as well as dealing with the maybe this TV series.
That's fantastic. There's so many things that we can do. You know, I was out, I think it was last night, a couple of nights in this last week, and the sunsets are fantastic.
Especially here. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just amazing. And, you know, just even from my iPhone, taking these pictures and just finding that moment of joy, just like playing with a grandchild, and finding the just that section in your life that says, this is what it's really about. You know, it's not
slow down, smell the roses. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's some things that I want to, you know, expand on the show and expand and what's going on with Badge Boys. Tell us about Badge Boys.
Yeah, we've been doing it now. My gosh, it's hard to believe, but we've been doing it over a year, and we have 100 shows.
Congrats.
Oh yeah, it's an amazing ride. We got a sponsor called Officer Privacy, which, you know, it was really neat to get a sponsor that means something to Jason and I in terms of keeping people safe, especially in today's world where there's people out there that are filled with hate. They just are, and it's a shame, but they're just consumed by it. And I don't care which side of the aisle, it doesn't matter. Hate is hate. It grows, it feeds, just like love does, and a smile. And they will go on the internet and find information out about you. So when we found this sponsor that basically it's called officerprivacy.com, that allows to remove your personal information, your phone number, your daughter, your family's phone numbers, your addresses, and so forth, to keep people safe, because we're seeing a lot of ugliness, which is a shame. And again, for anybody, so we're kind of excited about that partnership. I mean, genuinely. And Badge Boys, like I said, it's an amazing ride, and it's hard to believe that 2 years has gone by. 2 years with Jason, and it seems like yesterday, because every day building bridges between community and police. And has there ever been a time where we needed to really kind of connect with the community? It's now. There are some bad officers out there. There really are, and we're seeing some bad things. We've seen it.
Yeah.
And when that happens, it tarnishes the badge. And it's not enough to say, well, there's, a couple of bad apples in every bunch. That's a cop out, pardon the phrase, pardon the pun. But the problem is, if we demonize and villainize the entire police profession, then we're going to become a revolving door and a self-fulfilling prophecy, where who's going to want to do the job but people that shouldn't be doing the job. So it's a double-edged sword, and we need to get a handle on it. It's at a crisis mode, I think.
Well, I think society as a whole needs to really take a step back and understand what they really want society to be like, and riots and tearing down, burning down buildings isn't necessarily my idea of what a happy future looks like,
No, exactly right. We talked about, history and learning from history, from ourselves, but also as a society. And, I look at the 20s, the 1920s, we call it the roaring 20s. And today, these 20s are going to be the rioting 20s. Forevermore, history is going to look back at this time with a very, judgmental eye, and appropriately so. There's people that are taking advantage of the anger that's swelling, and whether it's political advantage, weaponizing it, what have you. And again, both sides of the aisle. This is should not be a left against right kind of thing, and it's global. We're seeing this across the globe as well. So there's people out there, sadly, that are loud and boisterous and taking advantage and rioting. And again, that's not the answer. That's just going to create more headache. And the daunting task of police officers, sadly, there's the reason it's called PTSD is post. So we're not even going to see the damage that are happening to the police officers that are standing in these lines, especially during the summer when it's really, really bad. And hopefully it won't go back to that. But down the road, we're going to see some suicides, sadly, because of the it was just a very hard time for police officers to withstand night after night, especially when you look at Portland and Seattle, where it's like over 100 straight days of rioting.
Oh, I lived in Portland, and some of the places that they were rioting in and destroying. I mean, I've been there, and it's just
beautiful city.
It's a beautiful city, and I was crying. It's devastation. It's like, what? I don't understand the connection between the two.
It's funny. I'm so glad you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I had a guest on my show, Badge Boys, and we were talking about Antifa, and we had this a soundbite of this young lady who was talking about, she said, I personally don't, damage places and burn things down, but I understand why they do. It's a small price to pay for a bigger problem. And so I kind of said to my guest, I said, I talked with a fireman. He was a African-American who had built this this dream of a neighborhood bar, and all firemen, you guys are the smart ones. You always have this off-duty job. You have this great gig you guys do. We just go from call to call to call, and so you have plenty of time to think about it in your lazy boy chairs. So when he built this in Minneapolis, and that first riot after George Floyd, they burnt down his bar. And so I said to that young lady, that isn't a microcosm. That's his world. You burnt down his world. And how does that help or address any type of social injustices like with George Floyd? And what's funny about this is that this was one time where the whole world, literally the whole world, was on the same sheet of music. We all saw that. We all said that was a murder. It was just I don't even want to go on about it because he makes me sick. That was a murder. And that was the time when somebody like Martin Luther King would have came forward and brought the world together. Instead, sadly, there's political purposes behind trying to tear things apart. And that's a shame. It's a shame because that should have been a defining time of unity, really.
It could have been. It was a missed opportunity, in my opinion.
Thank you. I agree.
People could have come together and said, let's improve the system.
Yes. There's something wrong. Yeah.
There's something wrong. Let's improve the system instead of going completely opposite ways. So thank you so much. We could talk for hours, I know. And I really appreciate what you're doing, Darren. And let's continue to pursue excellence in the communities. Let's pursue a little bit of empathy. You don't know what the next person is going through. You don't know what tragedy or trials they're going through. So we really have to be on, a little cautious about how we judge and how we measure individuals out in the community, and just have a little compassion. That's all it takes. A little compassion, a little empathy, and a little understanding and appreciation for other circumstances. And we're all on the same rock flying through the universe.
Third rock from the sun.
Yeah. Third rock from the sun. And it's something that we have to pay attention to, because it's, destruction and hate and everything that goes along with that is not necessarily the outcome that everybody's looking for. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Look forward to you next time coming back as a pirate, and love to catch up with Badge Boys and share it out, everyone. If you can, just like and share and comment, and make sure that this message is put out in the universe and can inspire and motivate other people out there to at least think and consider what possibilities are in your own world. So thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for everything you do.
As always. And you know why? Because kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And I want you to enjoy the day. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining the Pirate Broadcast. If you found this content valuable, please like, comment, and share it across your social media channels. I would love the opportunity to help others grow in their business. The Pirate Syndicate is a platform where you show up, we produce the show. It's that easy. If you want to be seen, be heard, and be talked about, join the Pirate Syndicate